Welcome to Coach SG and Friends, where we discuss topics that help you have a better relationship with yourself and others. I am Coach SG, otherwise known as your joyful friend. I'm a relationship coach and life mentor, an entrepreneur and speaker. I'm based out of Los Angeles, but originally from Brooklyn, New York. I love great music, deep conversations, and inspiring people to live their best emotional lives and create their most amazing love story. Let me introduce you to my two friends, Janessa Rose and Lisa Miranda. Janessa is the CEO of Motivational Monsters, a nonprofit that helps people activate mental health and emotional well-being through creative arts. She is the author of How to Stop Being an Effing Bum. BUM stands for Broken Urban Mentality. She's been dubbed the Tony Robbins / Cardi B of motivational speakers, and she calls herself the Galactic Goddess. Lisa Miranda is an actor and creative director. She's also dabbling in producing. She is based in Miami, New York, and Paris. She is a world traveler who speaks several languages, who loves life, good people, and good conversation. So we want to welcome you to our podcast. Let's get started. All right, ladies, welcome back. Welcome back. This is part 2 of how to heal a breakup. So in the last episode, we talked about what's the prescription for a breakup. And I think we got through 5. There's 10 steps and we got through 5. The first step was acknowledge and process your feelings. 2 was turn up the nurturing and self-care. 3 was to manage your thoughts and emotions. And 4 was to stand in your power, so try not to speak and rehearse habits that put us in powerlessness. And 5 was work on releasing them mentally, emotionally, and physically. So now we're up to number 6. So number 6 was find support. And we could talk about that a little bit. I just feel like with a broken heart, we just feel like we got to just, white knuckle through it. But I do think that we should get some support. And you guys have any experiences where you got some support?
Absolutely. Support is one of the main things. And often when we're breaking up, we don't want to, sometimes we get in the space of, I don't want to tell anybody that I trust because I don't want them to judge me. I don't want them to judge my ex-lover or lover. I don't know if we're going to get back together, Sometimes your support system is tired of hearing about the same thing over and over, depending on what level of healing we're on. Because, if you're not at a higher love level of healing, then you're complaining about your lover most of the time. And we get to the point of feeling like, oh, I don't want to tell this person because they're tired of hearing about me and John Doe or Jane Doe, whatever have you. But yeah, there was a breakup. Most of my breakups, I'm a big baby when it comes down to my breakups, in the sense of I won't let the guy see the pain that I'm going through. I'll be real tough about it. Like, I'm good. It's your loss. I was, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in that space. But deep down inside, I'm having a breakdown and a little meltdown too. I'm learning how to, detach. And I really want a hug more than anything. Like,
Aww.
when I'm heartbroken, the main thing I want to do is be held by somebody that I know I can trust, that I could be my most vulnerablest with. And for me, thank God, it's my mom. My mom is always a supporter for me when it comes down to boyfriends. Although she doesn't see relationships the same way I see it, but because I can be my most vulnerable self with her, I can cry, I can tell her the most deepest sensitive perceptions that I have about it, and sharing that space with someone helps me to hear myself out. Even like her feedback sometimes is not what I want to hear, you know what I mean? But a good support system is going to let you speak. They're going to let you, get your stuff off, but they're also going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, you know what I mean? Sometimes we have to be careful of the kind of support we have, because we can be looking for support in people who are not yet healed and are not yet coming from a healthy, loving perception. They're coming from the place of enabling your self-sabotaging behavior. Fuck that. They ain't no good. They not, when the truth is, if you stay and you focus on the bad of the other person, you're also not getting to heal, because this is not your highest version of self and your perception. All right, but you get the point. You know what I'm saying? Some things are not support, although it makes you feel better, although it's like, oh, those are my friends, they want to make me feel better. You have to, it's up to you to discern whether that's the type of support that's really beneficial for you, if you're really focusing on healing a breakup, because that's really not healing. That's distracting.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Me too. I remember one time breaking up with like a college boyfriend, and going to Boston, my hometown, and going to my aunt's house, and I still have a relaxer. So she curled my hair, and like me and my cousins were talking about all kinds of plans that we were gonna, like, we were catapulting ourselves to like the next things that we wanted to do in life. And I just remember it being kind of like a special time, because I felt supported without necessarily talking about the details of the relationship. So sometimes I think the people who support you and love you don't even have to understand exactly, what you're going through, but that love is so important. And when you, let's say you don't have anyone that, you feel comfortable sharing this with, or you feel like you're in a sad place, it's not a bad idea to go find some other interest that you have that you've been meaning to try, like a yoga class, a painting class, a cooking, whatever it is. But the point is to be around different kind of energy, so that you can, even if it's, momentarily, an hour, whatever, you forget about your problem, and then you get to like feel good. And then you know what I'm saying? Like for me, I noticed when I was taking swimming classes, I got to this ripe old age without knowing how to swim. But no matter what problem was going on that day, no matter how bad it was, when I'm in that pool trying to swim, learning to swim, there is no way that I was thinking about whatever was stressing me out. Impossible. I'm just trying to like stay alive in that 4-foot pool, So I think it's so important to find that support. And it doesn't have to be your best friends or your family. It can be the activities that really make you kind of flourish.
I agree. And it can also be this podcast as well. I think this is kind of a hard part, because I agree with both of your perspectives. I think that, when you're going through a breakup, it feels crappy, and it like I don't know. I've had different kinds, it's not as, devastating like these days as it was when I was in my like 20s. But I remember I had broken up with someone. This is in my 20s though. I'd broken up with someone, and I think it was like 96 or something like that. I don't know what it was, but this relationship was so toxic. It was just terrible. It's just a terrible relationship. There's a lot of cheating. There's a lot of fighting. There was just all the bad things that you can think about was in this relationship. There was like, she'd be missing for days, that kind of stuff. And it was just terrible. And when I finally released myself from the relationship, I had a really hard time coping with it. And I remember, I shared this before, but I remember I'd gone over to my friend's house, my Puerto Rican friend from New York, my friend Carmen. I'd gone over to her house, and I was devastated. I was crying. I had the music, I had like Tony Braxton. I don't know what it was on, but I was crying. I was on the sofa just doing the most. So she came over to me, and she handed me a knife. And I was like, I'm trying to wipe my eyes. I'm like, what is this for? She was like, kill yourself already, because
you're
going down the death hole, And it made me laugh. It got me out of my state. And she made me realize, like, I'm doing a whole lot. I got the sad music on. I got the lights down low. I'm just like in my feelings. And it was like, it's not even that serious. She wasn't, not that she wasn't worth it. It's just, we weren't a good connection. I wasn't happy in the entire relationship. So, what am I doing all this crying for? So it was just really funny. So it was fun to have her support, but she had a different, she had that no nonsense approach to support. But I would say that, what's important is like, so where should people find support when they're broken up, if they don't have anybody around them, or they feel sometimes, we feel too embarrassed to share before it even gets to a breakup, right? When we're dealing with some stuff, we don't want people to know what's happening with us. And, you have some friends and you'll be like, man, I thought they were doing great. And then all of a sudden they're broken up. and not that it needs to be anybody's business, but what are, I know Janessa's got all the little tactics about, ways to write and process things. Like, so you have any supportive tools that people can use?
Yeah. So, in my age now, in my perception, I don't have a big support team. So what I do is I really connect to the divine. My connection with the divine is so much more important than even connecting with people, because I am already at the stage of knowing that people can only give me advice from the level of soul work that they're at. And because I have you and Lisa, at least that's good, because you guys are consciously working on yourselves and totally conscious of how you help others and how you show up for others. So that makes it a good and healthy support group for me. But for those people that don't have, this type of a dynamic, I would do praying. I would do writing to self. I do pros and con lists. I even, all right, there, I'm getting a little honest here. I even do crazy shit. Like, so one of the crazy things that I do, well, I'm gonna call it a little crazy, but when I can't speak to anybody, or I don't have anybody to speak to, I'm not even in the mindset of feeling comfortable to share with anyone. I have a moment where I'm thinking of something. It could be my own thought process about the breakup. And what I do is the emotions that I'm feeling, I talk out loud in my house or wherever I'm at, mostly privately in my house. I'll speak to the ex. Whatever my thought is, if the thought is, he didn't care about you, or you're by yourself, or you know what I mean, whatever little, sad thought comes in, I address it to the ex and be like, you know what? You were an asshole and that was uncalled for, or whatever. And I'll have this conversation with no one, but I'll believe that I'm connected in the spirit to this person. They're receiving the message. So that, even though it's fantasy almost, even is it like, it's a part of me being like, they got the message. You know what I'm saying? And so I believe that I put it out there and I let the divine work it out, because I believe in energy. So that's another thing that I do. I'll have a full argument. I'll be on the toilet and have a full argument with, not an argument, but let me say what I gotta say and put it out there and be like, you know what,
Y'all be doing the most on the toilet.
I know. It's a sacred place.
The bathroom is a sacred place. The toilet and the bathtub, and I'll just be peeing. All right, we ain't gotta get crazy.
So do you guys do more time alone for after a breakup or around people? Because I know for me, I usually I like two things: occupational therapy, doing things so that I'm busy and keeping my mind off of it. But I do like a lot of alone time, to just not, I guess, process, but quietly.
I would say, I think you've got to, like, we were talking about before, you got to personalize what it is for you, because, that one way might not work every way. And you may have been in a really chaotic relationship and you just need like alone time, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe, you're in a long distance type of relationship and you don't see the person that much, and you feel like you need people around you. So it really depends on, your situation. And this is why it's really important that we've got to get in touch with what we need, because we've got to go towards what what it is. Are you feeling loneliness? Are you feeling insecure? Are you feeling in fear about finance? Like, whatever it is that you're dealing with, you got to figure out what that is, and then you can find the antidote to it. It's hard to do it, like this is just the antidote for everything, because it's, the circumstances are going to change.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. I prefer to be alone because I'm always coming out of chaotic shit. But there's times where I do want connection and I do want to be around that. And when I am around it, then I can realize like, it's not what I want. I don't care.
That's a spiritual term, right?
Yeah, spiritual attack. I'm writing all these things down. Someone spell that for me.
Sound effect. It's like murr. It's like a couple times.
Okay, so finding support. I feel like we closed that one up, but and I just want to share. So whatever that support looks like, you've got to find out what it what it means for you. It could be a really devastating breakup where there's like kids involved and family and all that. You may need to get your life coach. You may need to get a therapist. You may need to go to some support group or whatever. And your friends and family may not be you're a support system. Maybe this podcast, and maybe you read a book, or you listen. There's all kinds of free content on YouTube with our stuff.
Right, right.
And then number 7 is do more stuff you love that feeds your soul. This is like one of the most important things in the world. This is how you nurture yourself. So why do we need to do more stuff we love that feeds our soul?
Well, because it keeps us in a higher vibration. Once you're feeding your soul, you're growing it, you're expanding it. Once we're focusing on our soul's growth and what pleases it, we're now at a higher version of self. We're in a loving space for self, which allows us to hold a loving space for others, even probably the ex. So the process is less toxic for self. Remember, when we're angry, we're holding on to bitterment, resentment, and things like that. We're really only affecting ourselves, even if it's valid, because your things are valid. Everybody's stuff is valid. But doing the things that feed us, number one, high vibe. Now you're feeling good. You're seeing yourself in a positive light, where it's like, wow, look at me doing things I haven't done before, or I'm feeding myself with the things that I love. This feels good. So it just allows you to connect to your highest version of self. And therefore, if universal law is operating correctly, it's going to attract to you more opportunities to keep on loving self. So that's why it's major important, because it's really the avenue toward healing. Anything that doesn't feed the soul is an avenue towards self-sabotage, towards fear. So
Love that. And I would add that, I try to see things in like practical terms, right? And it's just like if you were physically sick. When you're physically sick, you take more vitamin C, you eat soup, you don't run as much, you do things to nurture yourself so that you can get back to good health. And when you're suffering with a breakup, you're feeling broken. You're feeling like, in despair. You're feeling like you're feeling depleted, right? So you need to fill your cup back up, right? So you need to do more things that you love and that elevate your spirit, so that you can fill back up that void that we usually do it with people, and we do it with outside kind of things, and we need to do it with baths and painting and writing and singing and dancing and hanging with people that just make us feel amazing, swimming and going on a trip. Like, you got to figure out what to find yourself, flowers, whatever it is. You got to do these things, because you got to remember that something feels broken, something needs your attention, and you need some kind of repair. So this is part of the repair. Well, we just got to let it out. We've got to express it. And it sounds silly, like, and my clients have, like, you got to follow your joy and do things that's more joyful, and they're like not feeling good, and it feels like it doesn't make sense to go take a walk or to do these things. We believe that just sitting down and thinking about it is going to get us to better health, and redoing. I would rehearse conversations in my mind so long that by the time the person showed up and it was time to have the conversation, it was like, blah! Because I've been practicing and rehearsing my response, and instead of taking a bath, doing some things that make me feel good, meditating, sleeping more, eating well, running, whatever it is that's going to make me feel better. We just got to do that. It's part of the prescription. Do you have anything else to add, Lisa?
Yeah. Letting go of needing any kind of justification to take care of yourself, because I know that's a really hard one. I'd be like, well, I can't afford it. Or, well, you know what, what's the point? I'd create a longer list of why I can't take care of myself than the list of what I could actually do for myself. And then what I learned is that I don't feel better. I make the problems so big that it's just like, all right, well, I guess we're done for today. And that was an awful cycle that I think I don't remember ever seeing that work out for me. So I remember when I first started hearing about this other way of doing things, I was just like, I've already tried the other stuff and it doesn't work to be miserable and to keep crushing my worthiness, like I don't have time to think about that. I have all these problems. I'm so sad. I'm pissed off. I'm this and that. And since, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of you guys that may have tried this process, and once you see it doesn't work, it's worth putting a little bit of time and energy towards thinking about it the other way, because that's really why I decided to try it out another way, because the other way just never worked, and never, me being pissed off and miserable and not taking care of myself has never brought me to the other side of feeling, oh, okay, you know what, now I'm ready to conquer life and to live my best life. It just didn't work. So even if that is like, I know it's like a silly reason, but if that's what it takes for you to try something different, just do it, because you know, like, it's your life, you know.
Yeah. And I love that. And I would add, as you were talking, it just made me think about the other thing that I used to do when, I was feeling my feelings or whatever. I would get busy. I would get busy and I go to work and I hustle. And I caution against that now. And unless you're getting busy on stuff you love, not
Yeah.
getting busy with responsibility and more heaviness and more stress. You want to get busy taking care of yourself. Just like if your foot was broken, you can't hustle. You've got to let it, you got to elevate, you got to sit down, you got to take care of it. And when your heart is broken, it feels devastating. And you have to do things that make you feel better, and that's going to bring you to a higher place than to do a lot of responsibility, because unless you absolutely love that responsibility, otherwise it's just but work takes the focus off. But you want to focus on things that bring you joy instead of focusing on responsibility. So
Yeah.
all right, so number 8 is do some self-reflection. And the reason I put, we put this at 8 instead of in the beginning is because as soon as we get in some pain, we want to get right into self-reflection. What did I do? And that's, take care of yourself first. But we want to do some self-reflection after we've been nurturing ourselves, and then ask ourselves the question, what made you an energetic match to this situation? So I remember when I got my coach, I was going through my breakup or whatever, and you want to complain a little bit about what they had done to you, and my coach like stopped me in my tracks because she said, I wonder what made you an energetic match to her. And I was like, I was like, oh, I guess, yeah, I gotta look at that. So what say you ladies about this part?
It took me a long time to start asking that whole energy match. Now that's like always the question, right? Like even if I'm at the supermarket, I'm like, what match me to this one? The clerks or whatever. But I think the self-reflection in that space is important later on in the game, because it's like when we're first upset and breaking up, we're coming off and we're reflecting based off of hurt emotions, based off of impulse. You're still not, like I said at the beginning of this episode, the stages of grief. There's different stages. So your emotions and your actions are based off of those different stages. And so they're different. So later on in the game, when you start to, after you start to implicate all these things that we were talking about, all these steps, when the self-reflection comes in later on in the game, now you can say, yeah, at that time, I guess I wanted to date somebody like this, or I was in this space of I needed this. And it's easier to see once you start taking those steps that maybe you were doing something you weren't even clear about. It's easier. And why I think it's important is because you can now take accountability, which is also a part of the steps of breaking up, is accepting. All right. So the self-reflection is a big part of the last stage of grief, which is I'm going to accept my stuff. I'm going to take accountability for my role in this, which in other terms, in other words, is your energetic match. When you start to look at it like, well, why did this guy cheat on me? Well, because obviously I was in need of a connection before looking at the fact that he was maybe immature emotionally. whatever, that's just an example. But when you go through all of that, you could really start checking like, okay, I attracted this because I was in a space of this, that, the third. And now you can look at, and you kind of all of a sudden, once you take responsibility for self, and you're now accountable, you're looking at them like, well, okay, that's a normal response to a reflection is happening all the time, but it's so important to, throughout the stages, to constantly have this really brutal honesty with self, because now you're practicing self-awareness, and that's not for the other person, that's for self.
Love
I
it.
think the only thing I would add to that is not to underestimate the time it takes to get from, the heartache, the beginning, to the self-reflection. Because I know for me, I like to rush. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to fix it. And it's like, stop, because now I'm realizing things, just because 3 days has passed, it doesn't mean I'm ready. Maybe 3 months, I'm not ready. Taking my time, understanding something is new for me, and it's gonna take the amount of time it's gonna take. It's like what was it? Pulled a hamstring once, and I'm like, yo, how long before I can do a split again? I was
You can
listen, I'm on like year 2, and I still, like, if I'm getting on a motorcycle, I go from the other side, from the other leg. It's not even 100%. So what I'm saying is, like, honor the process of however long anything takes for you. Don't be like, for me, I love to take responsibility and to be like, you know what, this is what I'm not going to do again. This is where I messed up. Relax. If you have that kind of personality, relax. It's okay. You're going to get to that. You're going to forgive yourself. And the other person is going to be all right. And it's, and taking that time, I think that's very important. If like me, you really want to rush to the lesson and to the finish line and moving on. And I know I've said to Sherelle before, like this is all kind of like, relationships are a waste. There's other things in life. And then I'm like, and now I'm seeing, okay, this is life. Relationships are life. So there's no rushing to getting it done, or rushing to get over the pain, but just really saying, all right, this is what I'm going to take away from this. This is who I'm going to walk away as, and then taking this process like we would something of this magnitude. I think the biggest problem is, in society, we've been told that it's not that big of a deal, or get over, or it's not that real, or whatever. And now it's unlearning that, and just honoring this whole cycle.
That's so important. I want to add something, and I don't know how true this is, but I just want to say it because it did have a profound effect on me. One of my uncles, with my longest relationship, the one that held more importance than any of them, I really messed up about the breakup, one of our breakups, and he goes, "How long have you and him been together?" And I go, "About 15 years, on and off." He goes, "Well, it's gonna take about that long to get over it." And I was like, what? Right. Right. And I was like, and he's a very intelligent man, my uncle. I go, why would you say that? And he started explaining to me the way our brain works. And he was like, because for 15 years, you have programmed yourself to do this, and the third. And this is why it's so important to you. You have to now unprogram that. And I was just like, and it was like I was learning a lot about physics and energy. But I ain't gonna hold you. Still not over
it. That's exhausting. That is so exhausting.
Also, and we could probably do an episode about that next time. Is I think that's really about like soul ties too. We'll talk about that in another episode. But I want to talk a little bit more about this self-reflection and this energetic match part. I think that if we try to do self-reflection too soon, it's kind of like we haven't actually healed ourselves yet, so we're not looking with the right optics. And when I say energetic match, I'll take myself into consideration. I mean, I'll use myself as an example, is that if I'm in a relationship and I'm feeling insecure, I match with somebody who doesn't make me feel safe, who's like, oh my God, you make a big deal about everything. Because I'm not standing in my power now, I'm insecure and I need you to fix my insecurity. Or if I'm feeling needy, like, maybe they're not giving me enough attention or whatever, I'm going to match with somebody who's cold and turns, like, oh my God, like, why are you? Because I haven't elevated myself. I haven't stood in my power. So we're matching up those energies. I'm not taking care of my emotions. So I think when I think about energetic match, I take accountability and how I could have done. I have to change my emotions. I can't let them be responsible for my emotions. This is that full accountability. It's full accountability for your emotions. Yes, would I rather be with someone who makes me feel safe when I'm feeling needy or I'm feeling what? Absolutely, I would love that. And that's just some note to self that I just got to know looking forward when I'm aligning with someone else, that I want someone who can listen in and who's intuitive enough to know oh, she's having an issue. It has nothing to do with me, but what does she need in this moment?
I remember specifically when something like this happened to me, exactly what you're talking about. I was feeling like something was ending, or something was ending that felt like it should have already ended. And then I started talking to someone, and then that was ending abruptly. So then all my brain could process was trying to have a conversation and go back with someone who had been dumped me. And I'm like, why am I doing this all in 1 week?
Because
like, why am I asking for this?
Because there's a void, and so we go back to that person to fill that void instead of filling our void first. And all this stuff, and I'm like, man, if I just learned this when I was like just 19, even, my life would have been so much different. I wouldn't have been standing outside banging on the door. I wouldn't have done a lot of things, but we do what we do with the information we have at the time.
And let me tell you, if you would have told me any of this stuff from any of the young teenage ages when I started dating, thinking I was a whole adult, I would have never listened. You know what I'm saying? And Lisa, I got two things to say. Lisa, what you just said was in your pattern. That's what that is. That's your pattern. That's what Lisa does usually. That's what Lisa has more experience in doing. Being aware of that and himself reflecting on that, like you just taking accountability for it right now is an act of self-reflection. And now knowing that whenever it occurs again, and it always occurs, because girl, you're not alone in that. I do the same thing.
Okay, I have a question about this then. These patterns, because that just brought me to another question. So I remember a couple years ago, there was a guy that I was crazy about, and he wasn't really nice to me, so I got over him, right? And then like months, maybe the next year, enough time for a 20-something-year-old to feel like a lifetime has passed, right? One day I'm minding my own business. I'm feeling good. I'm doing like some projects that I was creating. I was feeling really in my power. And suddenly, out the blue, he just pops up and like invites me out and like to hang out with other friends of his. And I'm just like, oh, like we like we never used to do that. And then like we were hanging out, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess we're getting married. like it went that fast to me, and I was just. And then it ended just as fast. And I just remember thinking, I wasn't thinking about him. I was in a very good place, and he was someone that was very judgmental about me. So how could I have been an energetic match to someone if I was feeling really good and he has a way of kind of like bringing that down or making me feel like I'm not enough or I wasn't doing enough? How the heck did, in a moment of strength and clarity, was I an energetic match to someone who was just ready to, like, someone who was not, someone who was the opposite of those things, who appeared to be very secure but was not?
So I think because we got to get to the last two things, I would say that we can talk about this in another episode, and I really think it's about the soul ties. I think it's about still having unprocessed stuff that you feel like, well, I went on and I focused on other things, and because you focused on other things, you think that it's no longer there. But it's also the reason why we still have childhood trauma and stuff that comes up. It's like, I'm 51 years old. Like, how am I still worried about what happened when I was 12? Because I'm still mentally and emotionally connected to that. So I'm not thinking about it every day. I'm not worried about any of my past traumas or whatever, but there may be something that triggers it. And the fact that he was there and you saw him, it triggered all that stuff. Lisa
How
has
do you,
another
how do you have
question.
time to do anything else in your life if you have these cosmic healing processes to
supposed
do?
to be
Where do
doing
you even learn about this? Huh?
Well, here's
We're
the
not-
thing: is we're giving out energy and accepting energy. Like all this stuff is happening all day long, but we were never taught about our vibration. So we're just learning about it now. So the great part is that now I'm just such a student. I try not to be judgmental. I start not to push things away. I start to go like, oh, this is in my life for a reason. Let me pay attention. But when we get into like, they're doing stuff to me and oh my God, I can't believe this happens. You miss the lesson, which brings me to number 9. Understand the lesson. The lesson's not like, oh, I need to not be with a person like that. It's more about like figuring out why you're an energetic match to that person. That's the lesson. It's not only asking yourself that question, but taking a lesson from it, because it's kind of like taking the next test and you never took the lesson. You miss it altogether. Really, it's about whatever you're vibrating about, you're getting a match to it. So it's your energetic match, your mirror reflection of everything that's happening, and it's hard to figure out like, well, that person stole my money. How was I an energetic match to that? That doesn't make sense. I didn't bring them into my existence. But if you don't try to figure it out, you're not going to find the answer. So if your belief is like, I can't be, you're not going to find the lesson. But if your belief is, I must be, then you'll find clarity.
Are you an energetic match to what goes wrong in your relationship if the other person dies? And if so, how do you repair your energy so that you can have a healthier or longer relationship?
That's different. That's like saying, are you an energetic match to somebody having a health condition? No, not necessarily. You're not an energetic match to the health condition, but however it's showing up in your experience for a reason. And oftentimes we look at it in a bad way. We don't look at it, why is it showing up for me? It could be it's showing up for you because you asked for more patience, or I don't know, it's different. Not every situation is the same, but if you're looking at it with curiosity, you'll find more clarity than when you're looking at it like, how is this about me? Everything is about you, and the universe has cooperating components around you. And maybe you're still in the I need to save people place. So you may find somebody who's got an illness and now you've got to take care of them. And you're like, how did I get here? I don't know. It depends on kind of what the dynamic is, but everything that's showing up in your experience, you're an energetic match to, and it's happening for you, not against you.
That's the big one.
So number 10, the last one, is trust in your power to do it differently.
Yeah, no, you gotta trust that you can, but we get afraid of the unknown. So when it does come up, we become afraid of the unknown when we're trusting our power to do something differently. Because if it's different, it's unknown to us. So we're like, oh, am I capable of this? Am I gonna fail at this? Is it safe for me? Am I, whatever. We have all these questions. But anytime the unknown comes up, it gets a little frightful. But when you trust and you activate your faith and you start moving towards that, that's when you come out at the end of the tunnel where the light is. Like, oh, I did that. There I go. Look at me. Now it becomes known. I'm capable of doing this. So you have to start to learn, and it takes steps. It takes little, steps to do. And that could be something small at first. Like, you know what? I never blocked this person. I'm gonna block them now, and that is an unknown step to doing things differently. And that might show you, I feel better like this. And so on and so forth. Those parts of the unknown self start to grow. And now you feel more comfortable with saying, you know what, I'm okay with doing things differently. I know that I'm resilient. I know that I can work through this process. And this is an avenue towards my highest version of self. And so that's why it's important to do that.
I'll give a personal example that just reminded me of in trusting your power to do it differently. I used to feel like whenever relationships were going wrong, I was used to have a little voice in my head that was just like, leave. This is not going to work out. This is, this never works out. Anyone you've ever known that you've loved that was, going up, their relationship brings them down. Just bounce. This is a good time. And now I don't even remember hearing that voice. Like now, if it's break up, it's something, it just feels different. So I know that the work that I've done with myself has led me to change my belief that relationships are more harmful than positive, or unnecessary, and really just kind of in your way. I don't think of it like that anymore. Now I really see how relationships could be a source of joy and mutual success and prosperity. And that's like an idea that I didn't really have before. I thought if relationships don't get in the way and they make you reasonably happy, when, and again, don't ruin your life, congrats. And now, and now, I say that, but I had a lot of experiences growing up around very toxic relationships, and that really hindered what I believed when it came to relationships. And now I see better relationships. I see people thriving and being happy and healthy and creating homes that I'm like, oh, I want to be like that, or I want to live like that. And I believe that that's the power of seeing it differently and doing it differently, and changing what I rehearse in my mind about what I can have and what's around me and what's really available.
I love that. I love that. The only thing I would add is I think that, when we think about stories of somebody who was victorious, they had a lot of challenges, but they had to change their mental, emotional state, and they had to trust that they could do it, and just move forward. And, but it has to be some steps. You have to get into a better place. You have to change your thinking. Your thinking changes your emotion. It changes your vibration. When you get the lesson, you get more clarity. So you know which way to move now. You know what you're looking for. You have a different awareness. And, then you've got to trust that with all that information and with all those changes, you have got to attract something different. So, and that's about having the faith to do it. And, this is why we're doing the vision boards, and we're, trying to live our best lives, because we have to have a vision of the future, but we can't get that vision doing the same habits that we used to do. So we have to trust that we've done this process of changing our thinking, looking at how we were thinking before and how things were showing up, and taking accountability and changing our awareness so that we can attract those things. Because I can't be, my best self being insecure, being in fear, being in pain, being in what happened to me long ago, who done did some stuff to me. I'm just going to vibrate to more crap that's going to keep me limited.
Really quickly, Mel Robbins, have you guys ever heard of her?
Love Mel Robbins, and I read the 5-minute rule too. She's got a new book out now.
I haven't read it yet, but I've been watching her and listening to her. She's dope. She talks about the bridge. She just shared something online talking about the bridge, and talking about how we sometimes manifest. We go from like, we're sitting in a studio apartment and our vision board has a mansion, and we're just like sitting there in the studio apartment, like my mansion one day, like we don't include the bridge, the steps toward there. And not necessarily, because she said something that sounds like completely opposite of what the attraction or the vibration teaches us, law of attraction, which is manifesting or thinking and preparing yourself for the hard times, the times where in between that studio and mansion, we're in the I don't want to work my ass off to get this. You know what I'm saying? So she talks about us creating the bridge and thinking about that and processing what it might look like during those hard times, during us crossing that bridge to the light of the end of the tunnel. So to think about that during our manifesting and during our energetic, I know this is going to be hard, but I'm resilient to get through this. And I know there's going to be days I'm going to be crying, but those times I'm going to hold space for me to cry, and that's okay. So this way we can shift our vibration about those times, because it's those times that feel like shit, that, excuse my language, feel like boo-boo. and we drop our vibration, and that is what attracts to us the bad or the undesirable results. So I dug what she was saying, because she's like, okay, anticipate those things, because it's not an option. There's dark, there's light, there's going to be those times, but get on the vibration of I can activate that, that vibration of I can get through it. I'm gonna go through that. That's a part of it. I'm okay with that. I'm expecting that, and I'm ready for it, because that's gonna put us in the vibration of I'm ready for it. You know what I mean? So we feel good about it. We activate that faith. We activate that I can get through it, and so that puts us and keeps us on the higher vibration, even though it's hard.
Okay, I have a question about that. Like, I like what you said about activating, the perseverance and all that. But do we have to look at it as hard times? I'm so over hard times. I'm so over struggling and pain. Like that, I'm just like, I'm not, no, thank you. I don't want that anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like how is there another way, like, of reframing it? Because it's like, I'm just like, all right, I'm out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like me, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers is just like, oh my God, it's just felt like a long ass life of hard times. Oh, how can I'm willing to do the work, but I don't want to, I made a joke the other day because I had so many suitcases. I was like, I'm just gonna put one on my head. I don't want to do that.
Right. I think that absolutely it's a matter of how we perceive the times that we rather not, go through, but they're not optional, they come. So it's really about just perceiving it as part of life. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just part of life. You can, for you personally, whatever helps you to process it better, you know what I'm saying? Recategorize it, put it into another section in your life that you don't have an issue with, or that you don't dread. However it is that you personally need to get through it. For me, I tend to look at the harder times, although they're not ideal, I don't want to go through them, but I normalize them. I look at them like, well, it's not an option, gotta come with, you know what I mean? So that's how I personally look at it. I recategorize it, and I look at myself as, this is a time for me to show my resilience. This is a time for me to show how strong I am. And I try to put it in the categories that make me proud of myself, that make me feel good, that I'm able to celebrate myself. So that's what I do.
What I'll add is that, I agree with you, and I don't live life based on everything's going to be hard and it's going to be a struggle. So, just brace yourself for the challenges. I think for me, it's really about just rewording. Everything's still the same. We just want to reword it so that it's palatable, right? So I don't say like, oh, there's going to be all these challenges. The word I use is obstacle, because for me, it doesn't feel like it's challenging, right? It's just, if I'm changing the way that I'm doing things, I'm going to come up against things that are new, that the fears that I had. The reason why I didn't do it this way, like say if it was business, right? I was afraid to do business by myself. I'd always done business with someone else because I never thought I could do it by myself. As soon as I did business on my own, challenges happen, obstacles happen. But I kept telling myself, life is easy. You know how to do this. You're smart. You know how to handle obstacles. You're going to get through this. This is just something new to you. This is just the unknown. You've got to, how do you stand in your power in this situation? But in the past, before I was doing this work, if obstacles had come up, I'd be like, see, this is why I didn't want to do it by myself. And this is why I did it. And then it makes me powerless. So this is about standing in your power. It's not about struggle. It's not about that. You can still get the mansion without doing all this work that people's like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do. No, you don't have to do that. You have to figure out ways that break you through your obstacles with ease. Mm-hmm. That's how I do it now. Like, so when I first started, doing this coaching thing, and I was like, oh my God, I got to be on video and all that. I am the shyest person on earth. I know it doesn't seem that way. You can ask my family and friends. I put on a different face. I just put on a different face. But I just thought, like, I was afraid to be visible. I was afraid to make mistakes. Sometimes my grammar's not that good. I don't write that good. All that stuff. And I worried about those things. And I didn't go like, well, force yourself to do it. You just got to get through obstacles. No, I was like, well, Sherelle, what's a way that it would make it easy for you to do it? And I was like, well, I like to have a lot of fun if I'm dancing, if I'm, telling jokes, or, I'm being my authentic self it's a little bit easier. So then it was like, well, what could you start with? You couldn't start with a freaking ad because I'm not in that place yet. So I had to do videos that were fun and whatever to just get me used to doing it. So it's really about getting through the obstacles with ease. Everybody's going to get through an obstacle in a different way, and you got to figure out what's your way. So if I'm learning how to swim and you're learning how to swim, I learn different than you, right? Somebody like maybe Janessa, right, has a different approach. She don't mind being thrown into the pool and figuring it out as she goes. That might be fun and exhilarating for her. For me, that puts me in a lot of fear. I got to get some trust first. So I got to get my feet in. I got to walk to the, I got to have somebody hold me. I got some floaties or whatever. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that her way is better and my way is not. It just, that's what works for us. So it's more about personalizing for yourself. What's going to make this easy for you?
I love that.
All right, guys. So we're going to go back through the numbers. Well, I did read it before, but one was acknowledge. This is the prescription for a breakup. We want to acknowledge and process our feelings. We want to turn up the nurturing and self-care. That's super, super important. We want to manage our thoughts and emotions, not manage people. We want to stand in our power and try not to speak or reverse habits that make you powerless. We do that by habit, and we've got to just change that habit. Number 5, we want to work on releasing them mentally, emotionally, and physically, because when we don't do that mental and emotional part, we have those soul ties, right? We want to 6, we want to find support. So you don't want to do this by yourself. You don't want to feel guilty for having a broken heart that puts you in despair. It needs your attention, and you do need support. You don't have to do it by yourself, but support looks different for everyone. 7, you want to do more things you love and that feeds your soul, because your heart is broken, your soul feels broken, and you want to repair it and you want to refill it. 8, you want to do some self-reflection. You don't want to do this while you're in pain. You want to wait until you're getting into a better state so you can look at how you're an energetic match to the stuff that's showing up, so that you can change your vibration, so you can attract something new. And 9, understand the lesson. You've got to get the clarity. Get the clarity of what it is that you should do different. It's not about you like, nah, I ain't gonna be with these people no more because those kind of people do these things to me and trigger me. It's really about, no, what made me an energetic match to those people that triggered me. And 10, we want to trust in our power to do it differently. Because once we get a lot of clarity and we're changing our emotions and we're nurturing ourselves, we are so, so, so powerful. And we just have to trust. Most of the time, we just didn't believe in ourselves because somebody told us we weren't enough. I'm telling you right now, we are absolutely enough. And we just need to trust in our power, trust in our abilities. And there's just a different path that we may have to take to get through obstacles, but we can get through anything. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies. This is a good episode. I hope that it helps a lot of people. If you have any questions, you can send us a video or audio to our Instagram, or if you have a question that you want to ask us, but you don't want anybody to know about it, you can submit it to us also through Instagram. We won't share your information, and we'll include it to our Asking for a Friend segment. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye, Mello. Bye. Say bye. Say bye.
My joyful friends, that's our show. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe and leave a review. Share this episode with someone you think would get some value out of it. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.